apa kabar, and welcome back, my fellow language learners, to Adventures in Language. I'm your guide, Emily. And in this mini-series, we're talking about why hearing your target language out in the wild, in the real world, might sound different from how you learned it. It all boils down to three main things: idiomatic expressions, sound blending, and dialectal diversity. In our last two videos, we talked about the first 2 points, which were idiomatic expressions and sound blending. In this video, we're talking about dialectal diversity. What is it? How does it work? And what do you need to know about it in order to reach your fluency goals? And for those of you who might not know me yet, I'm Emily. I'm a linguist at Mango. I have my PhD in linguistics and a passion for language learning. Well, 시간낭비 하지말고. Let's get to it. So what is dialectal diversity? Let's say you learned the word for fun in your target language. Now, if your teacher was a Spanish speaker from Mexico, you might have learned that the word for fun is chido. But then you meet someone from Spain and you realize they don't use the word chido at all. They use another word, guay. Oftentimes in circumstances like this, learners start to feel like, did I learn it incorrectly the first time? Which one should I memorize? Which one is right? And it can feel really overwhelming. Like, if there are so many options for saying this one simple thing, how am I ever going to learn this whole language? Well, fret not, because it all boils down to something called dialectal diversity, which can be simply defined as variation in the vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation of a language. So how does this impact your language learning? Well, it all comes down to setting your expectations. Mainly it means that when you're learning a language, you need to shake the expectation that there's ever going to be just one way to say something in the language. There's always going to be multiple ways to say something. So think about it like this. The English spoken in New York City doesn't sound like the English spoken in Texas, right? Likewise, Mexican Spanish doesn't sound the same as Peninsular Spanish, the Spanish spoken in Spain. South Korean Korean doesn't sound like North Korean Korean. And I don't even sound like my own parents, and I lived with them for 18 years. Dialectal diversity is one of the leading reasons for why you might struggle to understand new native speakers in real-life conversations. If you haven't had exposure to their dialect, then it's going to take you some time to get used to how they say what they say. So what can you do about this as a language learner? The main thing is to remember that there isn't going to be one right way to say anything in the target language. It's not like math where there's going to be one unique solution to every problem. There's going to be many ways to say anything in the target language. Just because you come across a speaker who says something in a different way than you have learned to say it doesn't mean that the way you learned it is wrong. It's just different. Now, if being able to understand different speakers from different dialects is one of your language learning goals, then there are things that you can do. They all have to do with training your ear on different sources of the target language. And if you want some fun ideas for different ways to train your ear on different dialects, check out the tips in our intermediate plateau video, which is linked in the description down below. For those of you in the Mango fam who use the app, you might already have noticed that the app is designed to help you navigate dialectal diversity. For example, if you want to learn Spanish, you have the choice to learn Latin American Spanish or Peninsular Spanish from Spain, each course featuring voices from those target dialects. If you want to train your ear specifically for one dialect, you have that option. And if you want to expand your dialectal diversity, you can take both courses simultaneously. It's pretty cool to have the option. But most importantly, all of this comes back to your language learning goals. How you approach dialectal diversity in your language learning process is going to be different from how someone else does it, because it's closely tied to your communicative goals as a language learner. If your goal is to live and work in Spain, then it might make sense to put all of your time and energy into mastering that one dialect. But if you're learning Spanish to communicate with your colleagues who may come from different Spanish-speaking countries, then getting exposure to a variety of dialects might be the more worthwhile route. But more about that in next week's video, where we talk about the dialect dilemma. In the meantime, if you haven't recently checked in with your language learning goals and progress, then I highly recommend you do so. And if you'd like an easy step-by-step walkthrough of how to check in with your language learning goals, then check out our Setting Good Goals worksheet, which you can find as a link in the description. It is the best 5 minutes you will ever spend on your language learning. Well, my fellow language learners, that's all for this time on Adventures in Language. If you want to make sure that you are up to date on all of our awesome language learning content, then come join the Mango fam by subscribing to the channel. And if you really loved it, then let us know in the comments and tell your friends about us. We appreciate you. Well, Selamat tinggal, and I look forward to hanging out with you here next time. Bye! Don't forget to get your free Setting Good Goals worksheet, which you can access right here through the link on the screen. In next week's video, we're diving deeper into dialects, looking at the dialect dilemma. In the meantime, you can catch up on our existing videos right here. Well, see you next time on Adventures in Language. Bye.